Okay, so today we're going to solve linear inequalities, and it's the same exact thing that we did last week. Okay? The same exact thing, except now there's just one little rule. It says that the rules are the same as solving equations. The only difference is when you multiply, write it down, multiply or divide by a negative number, you flip the sign. And I'll show you a few examples of that, like number 5 and number 6. Those two, you're going to have to flip the sign, and I'll show you why in a little bit. Okay? But other than that, everything stays the same. So let's do a few examples together. Let's do problem number 1. I would draw the line just like it was an equal sign. Same thing, okay? You still follow the steps. You still look for distributing, combining like terms, moving the smallest variable, and see do. And in this case, the only thing that we have to do is move this -6 to the other side. So right now it's subtracting. What's the opposite of subtraction? So we're going to add 6 to both sides because that's what's happening. See, the x is being subtracted by 6, so we need to add 6 to both sides to get rid of it. Okay? So in the calculator, you guys would put -8 plus 6, and that gives you the answer. Bring down the x. What's -8 plus 6? -2. Now, here's the question. Did I multiply or divide by a negative number? No, I didn't do that. So you just bring the sign down. This sign just comes down. You don't flip it. Okay? And majority of these problems, you don't have to flip. But there's going to be problems like number 5. So let's go do problem number 5, where you will have to flip. So draw the line. Do you see any parentheses? No, so we're not going to distribute. Do you see things on the left side? Right here, do these two things look alike to combine? No, because this one has an x and this one doesn't. What about on the right side? No. So I'm not going to distribute. I'm not going to combine like terms. What about moving the variable? Do I need to move the variable? Do I have variable on both sides? Do I have an x on this side and an x on the right side? No. So you are not going to move the variable. You're going to leave it right there. And you're going to ask yourself, see do, what do you see happening with the x? What is the x doing? Multiplying by what number? What is this symbol? So what type of number is this? So it's multiplying by a -2. Not subtracting, it's multiplying by a -2. And what is the 6 doing by itself? What is the 6 doing? Adding. Okay, the 6 is being added to that -2x. So what is the first thing I'm going to do? Subtract 6 from both sides to get rid of it. Because it's a positive, I have to subtract both sides by 6. What is -4 minus 6? -10. Okay. Bring this down, the -2x, and bring down the symbol because I haven't multiplied or divide by a negative number. But will I? Am I going to multiply or divide by a negative number? Look right here. Am I going to multiply or divide by a negative number? Yes. It was multiplying by a -2, so I'm going to divide by a -2, meaning I'm going to have to flip this symbol at the very end. Okay? So I'm dividing both sides by -2. The negative and the 2 cancel. We bring the x down, we flip the sign, and what does this give you? The negative 10 divided by negative 2. Positive 5. Okay, so the sign flipped. If you forget to flip it on a test, it's going to be counted wrong. Okay, now, is there an easier way to do this? Yes. Let me show you real quick. We're going to put this whole thing in decimals. Just like that, just how you see it. The whole thing. Okay, and we're going to see what it does. So everybody start graphing it in decimals. I have 6 minus 2x less than negative 4. What was our answer? Positive 5, right? Where is it crossing on the x right now? Positive 5. Which way is it shading? To the right. Are these numbers greater than or less than? Greater than. What type of line is it? Solid or dashed? Dashed. So there is no line underneath it. So here is, you just have to memorize it. If it's going to the right side. That's a greater than. Okay? Which way is the arrow pointing? Look at this symbol and tell me which way is it pointing. To the right. Those are greater than numbers. If it points to the left, it's pointing to the less than numbers. Okay? This arrow is going to the left to the smaller numbers. This arrow is going to the right to the bigger numbers. So this is greater than, this is less than, and you don't need a line underneath because this is a dotted line. So it would be x greater than 5. Okay, so I want you to do it by hand, but you can also check it on the calculator just to make sure that you got the right answer. Okay, let's do one more, problem number 6, and then you're on your own. Problem number 6. Oh no, I'll do 6 and 9. Problem number 6, draw the line. What do you see happening with x? What do you see happening with the x? It's multiplying by a negative number, right? Negative 1. So it's multiplying by a negative 1. That means we're going to have to divide by a negative 1 at the end, right? So the sign's going to flip. What else is the x doing? It's adding 1. So what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to subtract 1 from both sides to get rid of that positive 1. What's 25 minus 1? 24. Bring down the sign. I'm not flipping it yet. And bring down your negative x. So remember I told you, if you see multiplying by a negative 1 or dividing by a negative 1, we're going to flip the sign. So this sign will flip because I'm dividing by a negative 1. If you divide by a positive number, then you don't flip it, okay? So this becomes x greater than or equal to negative 24. Go check it in decimals. I want you to put the whole thing in the calculator. Put the whole thing in the calculator. So we have negative x plus 1 less than or equal to 25. So look at this. You have to go all the way back to negative 24. So you just have to move it, right? And then you see that it's at negative 24 and that it's what? Which way is it shaded? To the right. So the arrow goes like this. Solid or dashed? Solid. So it has to have a line underneath. And you knew that because on the problem there was a line underneath it. Okay, so it's x greater than or equal to this number, negative 24. Okay? Problem number 9. Problem number 9, and that's it. Because this one you have to distribute. So we're going to practice. So step number 1, distribute. I'm distributing this 2 here and here. That means do what with it? You're multiplying. So 2 times n, 2n, 2 times 8, positive 16. Bring everything else down. 4n minus 5 plus n greater than or equal to. Step number 2, combine like terms. Is there anything for me to combine on the left? Which ones? The 4n and the plus 1n. So what's 4n plus 1n? 5n. Okay, everything else comes down. Minus 5. Is there something for me to combine on the right? No, one has an n, the other one doesn't, so bring everything down. Step number 3, move the smallest variable. And here's what, it comes in handy right here, because if I move the biggest variable, then I end up with a negative number, then I have to divide by a negative number, and I have to flip the sign. I don't want to have to do all of that. So that's why I tell you to move the smallest variable. So which one's smallest, 5n or 2n? 2n. So I'm going to move 2n by what? Subtracting 2n from both sides, from the other n. So cancels right here. What's 5n minus 2n? 3n. Bring everything else down. Minus 5 greater than 16. And then C do. That's step number 4. C do. What do you see happening with the n? Multiplying by 3. What else? It's subtracting by 5. Look at my C do. Am I going to have to flip the sign at the end? The inequality sign, this one, am I going to have to flip it at the end? Why? But it's not a negative number. Look at your rule at the very top. I said only if you multiply or divide by a negative number. Is this a negative number? No, you're not flipping anything, okay? Only when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Not always. So, what am I going to do first? On my table, what do I do first? You add 5 to both sides first. So plus 5, so that the 5 can cancel. 16 plus 5, 21. Bring down the symbol. Bring down the 3n. And then the last step, divide by 3. It's a positive 3. Again, we do not flip the sign. This sign stays the same. So it's n greater than 7. Okay? Let's say you forgot and you flipped it, right? Now it's n less than 7. When you graph it, you will be able to see that it's not going to the smaller numbers, it's going to the bigger numbers. Let's go graph it real quick, make sure that I'm right. I have 4x, those are n's, minus 5, plus x greater than 2 parentheses x plus 8. and I have to move it. And here it is. It's going to the greater than numbers, and it's